First of all, is that loud enough, McGee? All right. You know, I got, that's a nickname for my wife. And she whispered to me as I was coming up, she said, make sure you speak loud enough, we can't hear back here. So she just nodded, I guess we're all set. You know, it's, when I got the call from Dave Mills, or received a letter really from Dave Mills, he was very specific. One of the things he said was that we want to invite you into the class, this year's class, into the Hall of Fame here in Bristol. And to be honest with you, I didn't know you had a Hall of Fame here. No, I'm serious. No knock against you. But when I walked in tonight, I'm amazed. When I see these names here, I'm going to mention some in my talk, but there's more that I see up there that I know of and, and reflected upon than the ones that, I will mention. But Dave also stated, and the gentleman, Mark, who's been very good, Mark Redmond, my liaison, that I could only go 5 minutes. Now, I'm thinking about that since we got the letter in the middle of August, that how the hell can you put 53 years into 5 minutes? Okay? I've been coaching 53 years, 6 in baseball at Notre Dame. This is my 48th at St. Joseph in basketball. Shortly after I got the letter from Dave, I have a son-in-law back there who did about 16 Little League games in your tournament this year at Giamatti Field. He's has a great reputation as an umpire, and he was honored to be selected. So I said, well, Frank was up there all that time, I got to take a ride, and I've never seen Giamatti Field. I said, this gives me an opportunity to spend a day seeing the field, seeing the facilities, seeing where the Clarion was, and then going through Bristol. And that's what I did that day. I took my trip to Bristol to see my old town. I followed the signs to Giamatti Field. It's a beautiful complex, soda fields. They were watering one of them at that time. Went into the aquatic center, and the young receptionist was very hospitable. She answered all my questions, showed me the pool, and then she pointed to the number of plaques that were there on the wall. That just blew my mind. A lot of them were men that I know or had known, and a lot of them were just people I had heard of. I noticed names like Eddie McHugh, and there's a story there. St. Joseph High School is probably the only team in the state that wears knee guards when we play and when we practice. And that was due to Eddie McHugh. See, Eddie was an idol of mine. He lived on the next street behind where we lived. And, you know better than I, he had an unfortunate accident. He was a tremendous athlete, had an unfortunate accident, I guess his first year at Yale. And, from the story that I got, he damaged his leg or his knee, and he couldn't play for a year or two. Well, that just stuck with me. When I became coach at St. Joe's, I said, no. I said, our kids are going to wear knee guards, so we do. So whenever you see us play, you'll see that they have the red knee guards on, and that's the reason. Prevent an injury that could occur. That was Eddie. Also, there's Dan Valerio, who I met outside, Tony Ludovico, Bill McCooey, who chauffeured me back and forth to Arnold College. He drove, I didn't have a car, and got to know Bill well. Both Monahans, Tom Sr. and Tom Jr., as I used to call them. Julie LaRace, that we saw earlier up here. Tony Raffanello. George Redmond, Scotty Carter, who got me interested in sports as a freshman at Bristol. Dennis Zigman, who had a cup of coffee at St. Joe's and then left us. And my friend Gary Palladino back there. Gary and I have had some competitive games. Outstanding coach Gary is, and I have the utmost respect for him. Many, I asked to be last, and they granted that. Now let me tell you something, there was a motive to that, see? I figured if I only got 5 minutes, and I can get Paul and Steve and Bruce and Beth and all the rest to talk maybe 4 minutes, then I could add on that time to my 5, see? So it didn't work out that way, but I'm still going to take whatever I need, so thanks. Many thoughts came to mind as I took a ride around Bristol. For over 12 years, I lived at 216 Park Street. Those familiar with Park Street know that's, you can throw a rock and hit Muzzy Field. And I lived at Muzzy Field. I worked there for Mr. Raffanello as a vendor and a ball chaser. When they hit the ball over the fence, me and a couple of buddies of mine had to go sprinting after before some kid took it and went into the woods with it, see? So, and then I'd have to retrieve the ball and give it back. Now you see the major leaguers, they throw the balls after every inning into the stands for the people. That didn't work then. That was in the late 40s. All right, no locked gate kept us out of Muzzy Field. We wanted to play, we'd get together, 8 or 9 of us, and the gate was locked. Tony would lock it. We'd go under the fence. I'd have a tough time making it now, but we'd go under the fence and we'd play, and he'd let us. I went by the Summer House. I don't know if it's still called that. Summer House. Well, that building, God bless it, is still standing. And we used to have a rim up there. I don't know if they have anymore. And I remember times where we had to go shovel. We'd bring a shovel with us and a ball. We shovel off the Summer House court and we play basketball. I went by Rockwell Park. It's drained now. No picnic tables. No water spigot coming out where we used to drink. I saw the playground, much improved from what I remember. Seems like many of the swings, the ladders, the horseshoe pits are gone. Horseshoe pits were one of my favorite. I used to be able to play a little bit years ago. In their places are kids' showers, a beautiful pool, and a skateboard area. And I'm thinking to myself, what great memories. I took the time to go to the Boys Club. I've heard the Boys Club mentioned several times here tonight and also out in the corridor. Well, at the age of 7, I joined the Boys Club. And I owe an awful lot to the Boys Club. I'm a fan of the Boys Clubs. I'm a supporter of the Boys Clubs. Now the Boys Club when I went in, is also a girls' club. Boys and girls, I believe. They used to have a separate one when I was in town. There at the boys' club, I coached my first game. I think there were 2 or 3 gentlemen out there that all played for that first team or first and second team. But that got my juices flowing and decided maybe that's what I want to do. On my way to the boys' club, I noticed that St. Anne's School is no longer standing. I noticed that Bristol High School that I went to is now a middle school. I went by Park Street School, which is now Claire T. O'Connell. She was my principal when I went to the school. I passed by the houses we lived in. 216 Park Street, which I said before is a stone's throw from Muzzy Field and Rocco Park. 310 South Street, across the street from the old high school. 107 Gridley Street, which is the first house my parents owned. And the last house they bought, 65 Lexington Avenue. I took that tour. And you know, when you've been away so long, it really brings back memories. It took me quite a while to circle the city of Bristol that day. I saw St. Anthony's Church, which played a big part in my parents and my life. I never remembered my father not working. My father came here at 16, all alone, the oldest of 9 children. They put him on a boat. He came to the United States, and he made his way up to Bristol. There was a community of friends, and he stayed 19 years. And then he decided he was going to go get married. So he went back to Italy, and he met my mother. And about a year and a half, 2 years later, after she had a medical problem taken care of, she came to the States. She was already here, and I was born. They lost an older brother and a young sister. And my father, set an example. He's a slight man, as you saw on the screen. But boy, you talk about work ethic. I don't know anybody that worked like he did. He worked at Ingram's for years. He went to New Departure for years. While he was working both, he was pick and shovel in the morning. Today people call that construction. My visits, my mother joined, after I was about, reached double figures in age. She decided I was okay and she could go to work. It was during the war, so she joined New Departure in '43 and worked there for quite a while. I left Bristol at the age of 18, went to college. I never really came back. I made visits, of course. My parents were here. My wife and I would come up with the grandchildren, and they really enjoyed that. They would have loved to see me get a job in Bristol. It just didn't work out that way. When I got out of college, I was deferred. So that means now you're going to get drafted. So nobody would give me a job, so I painted houses for about a year and a half until my number came up. And when it came up, I went ahead and I met a gentleman at Fort Dix, and he was my age, 24. All the other people in our unit were RAs, registered. They didn't get drafted, so they were 18, 19 years old. We didn't have much in common with them. That turned out to be my brother-in-law. Because one day he says to me, my brother's getting married. I got to go back. I'm his best man. You want to come? And I said, yeah. So we at that time, we were in Cleveland. We flew into Newark. I hitchhiked home. I had a 41 Pontiac. I had it serviced that day, then I drove down. And when I got there, the wedding was over. But my wife was there, and I met her at that time, and the rest is history. Whatever I accomplished in my lifetime hasn't been accomplished here in Bristol. But there isn't a day, and I swear to you, that goes by without me having a memory that brings me back to my hometown. I realize now that my stay in Bristol, with the people I met, the places and experiences that I've gone through, all have had a great impact on me and what's happened in my life. My wife and I never hit it rich, money-wise, but I look at what I have, and I consider us rich people. We're fortunate. God's been good to me. I'm blessed with a loving wife, 6 wonderful children. They're all here, by the way. Also, we have a daughter-in-law here, a son-in-law here, and a granddaughter here. 6 wonderful children, I said. We have 17 healthy and lovable grandchildren. You saw them up here, too. I have a job that I love and am very grateful for. And now to have been honored by my hometown is just, it's like having your captain, Gary would notice, having your captain hit a 3 at the buzzer to give you a state championship. I thank the committee for giving me this honor. It's one thing that I'll never forget, and my wife tells me, she knows I can get carried away. She tells me, make sure you leave your audience before your audience leaves you. Thank you very much.